Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today we will have case quiz number 68. Case data: 51 years old male presented with a 2-day history of increasing exertional breathlessness and productive cough of a moderate amount of fresh blood. Over the preceding 3 weeks, he had felt very fatigued and noticed migratory joint and muscle pains. He had seen his GP several times in the last year for a recurrent blocked nose, which had been treated as allergic sinusitis. In the past months, his nasal symptoms had changed to a foul-smelling discharge. He had no significant past medical history. Examination revealed fever of 37.9 degrees centigrade, so low-grade fever. Blood pressure 160/100, so hypertensive. Oxygen saturation 89% on air, so hypoxia. There was diffused nasal mucosal swelling and redness with some areas of ulcerations and crusting. Bronchial breath sounds were heard in the mid and lower zones of both lung field. Bronchial breath sounds. Neurological examination revealed conductive hearing loss in his left ear. Conductive hearing loss. So the positive data until now: diffused nasal mucosal swelling, bronchial breath sounds, and neurological examination revealed conductive hearing loss, along with the joint and the muscle pain and bloody cough. The remainder of the cardiovascular system, gastrointestinal, and the musculoskeletal examinations were normal. Investigations revealed anemia of 9.4 gram hemoglobin per deciliter, white BCs elevated 13.2, neutrophils elevated 9.1, platelet elevated 623, serum creatinine raised 488 micromole per liter, and the normal don't exceed 115. Urea elevated 32 millimole per liter. CRP shooting 1/160 milligram per liter. Urine microscopy red cell cast present. Remember that the patient has already renal pulmonary symptoms, but no evident renal symptoms. But the renal manifestations appeared here by the investigations as raised creatinine and urine red cell cast. Chest X-ray is as following. This is the chest X-ray of this patient. So, what is the diagnosis? The answer is, I think the case is very straightforward. If you have inpatient for rheumatology and have moderate to high experience in the dealing of inpatient cases, you will meet pulmonary renal syndromes. Pulmonary renal syndromes. So this is one of the pulmonary renal syndromes with this differential diagnosis of this case. So, back to the chest X-ray. The chest X-ray show pulmonary hemorrhage. What is pulmonary renal syndromes? In this case, the red cell cast in the urine indicate glomerular damage. The most common cause of glomerular damage is glomerular inflammation, but other causes include renal infarction and bacterial endocarditis. The elevated serum creatinine and hypertension support severe renal involvement. The chest X-ray show bilateral air-space opacity with some apical sparing. Diffuse pulmonary hemorrhage is the most likely cause of chest X-ray finding. Infection is less likely because it is bilateral but needs to be excluded. The main differentials for pulmonary renal syndromes include the following. First is Wagner granulomatosis. Wagner granulomatosis is a necrotizing vasculitis of small and medium-sized blood vessels in which the granulomatous inflammation of the respiratory tract occurs. The newer name for this condition is granulomatosis with polyangiitis, abbreviated as GBA. Lung capillaries, which can result in pulmonary hemorrhage and necrotizing glomerulonephritis, is a common feature. The second differential is microscopic polyangiitis, MPA. MPA is a necrotizing vasculitis with fewer or no immune deposits, but predominantly affecting small caliber vessels. Necrotizing glomerulonephritis and pulmonary hemorrhage from capillaries are the characteristic features. The lack of granulomatous inflammation of the respiratory tract is the main distinguishing clinical feature between MPA and Wagner granulomatosis. The third differential here is Goodpasture's syndrome, or anti-glomerular basement membrane disease. This is a rare autoimmune condition where antibodies against type 4 collagen found in the lung and the kidney causing pulmonary hemorrhage and glomerulonephritis. The fourth differential is systemic lupus erythematosus. SLE is an autoimmune connective tissue disease with a wide spectrum of presentations, including multi-system diseases involving the lung and the kidney. It typically affects women between the age of 15 and 50 years. The history of nasal congestion, crusting, and conductive deafness favored the diagnosis of Wagner granulomatosis. These items are not typical features for the other differential diagnosis, and the patient gender and age make SLE unlikely. The investigations here, which can be used for differentiating the cases, include anti-neutrophil cytoplasmic antibody, or ANCA, anti-glomerular basement membrane, anti-GBM, anti-nuclear antibodies, ANA, nasal mucosal biopsy, renal biopsy, or other tissue biopsies. I will leave you for read this carefully if you want, but I will jump to the next slide. Regarding management, this patient has organ and life-threatening disease, as demonstrated by diffuse alveolar hemorrhage and renal failure. He is probably best managed in intensive care unit with high dependency unit, where his respiratory function can be closely monitored and mechanical ventilation can be provided if needed. Treatment include plasma exchange to remove circulating autoantibodies and immune complexes which may be driving this process, and immunosuppressive therapy with cyclophosphamide and glucocorticoid. The MIPEX trial showed that plasma exchange improved the renal outcome for patients with severe renal vasculitis. In addition, there is a consensus that plasma exchange should be used for pulmonary hemorrhage with evidence of retrospective case series. However, randomized trial evidence is not yet available. So for this patient, the first line of management is plasma exchange followed by pulse steroid and pulse cyclophosphamide. Intravenous pulse cyclophosphamide at a dose of 15 mg per kilogram every 3 weeks is given for up to 6 months in conjunction with oral prednisolone at a dose of 1 mg per kilogram daily. The dose of steroid is slowly tapered. For this particular patient, they don't give him pulse steroid but high dose steroid. Intravenous cyclophosphamide is favored over continuous oral cyclophosphamide as it has similar efficacy with lower cumulative doses and thus lower long-term toxicity. This treatment strategy is applicable to all differential diagnoses of this case pulmonary renal syndrome. Although the dose of cyclophosphamide is usually lower 10 mg per kg for SLE because of the higher risk of infective complications associated with SLE. This patient was found to have C-ANCA positive over 160 international unit. A diagnosis of Wagner was made. He was treated with 60 mg prednisolone daily and given cyclophosphamide 1 gram intravenously every 3 weeks for 6 cycles. He was given tremoxazole 960 mg 3 times a week as a pneumocystis prophylaxis and to reduce nasal carriage of Staphylococcus aureus. Alendronate 70 mg weekly and omeprazole 20 mg daily was also given. His hypertension was treated with amlodipine. His renal function stabilized at creatinine 190 millimole by 3 months. Once the disease activity is controlled with cyclophosphamide, i.e. the patient is in remission, treatment should be changed to less toxic immunosuppressive therapy, as the thiopurine is the most common medication used for maintenance of remission and should be continued for a minimum of 18 months, but often for up to 5 years. Other options for maintenance therapy are methotrexate, leflunomide, and mycophenolate mofetil. Earlier withdrawal of maintenance therapy is associated with a higher rate of relapse. In addition, chronic nasal carriage of Staphylococcus aureus has been associated with higher rate of relapse. Prophylactic use of co-tremoxazole may be useful in this setting. Prednisolone should ideally be tapered and stopped by the time of maintenance therapy is commenced, but if this is not possible owing to persistent low-grade disease, it should be continued at the lower possible dose. Patients with Wagner granulomatosis are 2 to 3-fold increased risk of cardiovascular morbidity, so modifiable risk factors such as smoking, dyslipidemia, and hypertension should be addressed. Bone protection with calcium, vitamin D, and bisphosphonate should be considered in patients at increased risk of osteoporosis fracture, especially those who require ongoing glucocorticoid therapy, especially for more than 3 months, and those who are postmenopausal and or have low baseline BMD. Regarding prognosis, the mortality rate for patients with a diagnosis of Wagner or MPA and renal failure at presentation is approximately 25% in the first year and the highest in the first 3 months, with the vasculitis is most active and immunosuppressive therapy is maximal. The mortality rate is even higher for patients requiring admission to an intensive care unit. The main causes of this are infection, pulmonary hemorrhage, and complications of severe renal failure. The risk of this is higher in those who remain dialysis dependent than in those who regain renal functions and are dialysis independent. Those who don't regain renal function probably have severe disease and or a delay in receiving appropriate therapy. If a patient survives the initial 12 months, the prognosis improves, but there is increased long-term morbidity and mortality from the results of renal and other organ damage, and increased risk of malignancy from cyclophosphamide exposure. This patient has a relatively uneventful course. He had one episode of presumed pulmonary sepsis, which was treated with antibiotics. He went on to mycophenolate mofetil 2 grams daily after the cyclophosphamide therapy was completed at 22 weeks. His blood pressure was treated with amlodipine and doxazosine. And finally, thank you very much for your attendance, and we will meet you tomorrow with case quiz number 69. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.